The ex-wife of my husband has hired a lawyer to make me pay child support for her daughter, but now she has to pay me. I feel incredibly disrespected when all I've done is be respectful. I'm having a problem with the ex-wife of my late husband, who is demanding that I pay child support, despite the fact that my husband passed away just a month ago. Dante died last month at 34 years old when a building collapsed on him. He never even made it to the hospital and died instantly. I received a call about the accident while I was at work, but by the time I arrived, he was already gone. Seeing his lifeless body felt like being in a nightmare. I never thought I would feel so powerless in my life. I was devastated, especially since we had only been married 2 months before. Dante had been so excited about the wedding because he believed it was his second chance at happiness. His marriage to his ex-wife Helen hadn't worked out, but they had a 7-year-old daughter together. Throughout my relationship with Dante, Helen was always present. She was the typical problematic mother who took every chance to ask for money and disrupt our plans. Despite this, I tried to be kind and welcoming to Taya, their daughter, because none of this was her fault. I even agreed to let Taya visit us during the holidays, as she was part of my family. Yet, Helen never cared for me. She told me many others had come before me and that I wouldn't get the ring. When Dante and I announced our engagement, her astonished look showed that she was not genuinely happy for us. It was clear she didn't like me. When Dante passed, Helen reached out to me because she understood my pain due to her own past. She was the only one I could talk to about how I felt at that moment, since I thought no one else could understand the pain I was going through. I haven't been myself for a long time. I've been busy finishing the paperwork and sorting out his estate, which has been exhausting. I wish I could leave it until I felt stronger, but it's impossible. I've been managing his estate for the past month, and I'm almost done. Dante set up a college fund for Taya, but he left everything else to me, like his house and car, along with all his savings. Of course, when Helen found out, her friendliness disappeared. She boldly suggested I should have asked Dante to change his will. I scolded her for even implying that I influenced him in any way. I didn't know when Dante decided to change his will, but it was his choice. If he had left me with nothing, that would have been fine. It was not my fault he was generous. Helen continued to make assumptions about Dante's will to the point that I stopped interacting with her. The only time we crossed paths was when we accidentally met somewhere, like at the mall. When I saw her, I would immediately head in the opposite direction, thinking ignoring her would make her vanish. But that didn't happen. She was planning something even worse to harm me. A few days ago, Helen brought Taya to visit me, saying that Taya missed me a lot, so I allowed it. I assumed Helen wouldn't stay, but I was surprised when she settled into our home and started commenting on how great everything looked, asking if I had started redecorating. Then she mentioned how nice it must be not to struggle financially. At that moment, I began to wonder what her true intentions were behind those remarks. That was when Helen told me she had been struggling to take care of Taya. Dante used to pay child support, but now that he was gone, Taya was not receiving anything. Helen assumed I would continue paying the child support, but I hadn't so far. I responded with the utmost respect that Taya wasn't my biological daughter and I wasn't obligated to take care of her. Plus, her father left enough money for her college. To make matters worse, Helen had a good job, so I was sure she could use some of that to take care of her own daughter. Helen was shocked at my words and claimed she couldn't believe I was being so cruel to a girl whose father had just died. I told her that this was not the best time to discuss this, as I was just wrapping up Dante's estate, and I would also have additional expenses now that he was gone to help with those bills. Asking for money right now wasn't helping at all. Her response was that I was being selfish and unreasonable, asserting that she had been waiting for a day like this when they would suffer financially just because I was Taya's stepmother. I defended my care for Taya in front of Helen, explaining that things were rough financially at that moment, but if we could revisit this later, we might be able to reach some agreement. Well, obviously she refused to listen to that, which made me even more frustrated and I lost control. All of a sudden I felt red with anger. I asked Helen if that was why she approached me at the funeral. Was she trying to ensure I would continue paying for Taya, or was she attempting to squeeze more money out of me? She denied everything, claiming I was accusing her of things she would never do. That was when I reminded her of how she made my relationship with Dante difficult since the beginning. She would steal our date nights, leave him broke, show up at his house unannounced, and did everything she could to sabotage our relationship. Nevertheless, we prevailed, and Helen has always tried to make my life hard just because she resented me. She knows she can afford to take care of Taya, but wants that responsibility to fall on me. I love Taya, but she isn't my biological child, and she certainly isn't an orphan. Her mother is alive and financially stable. So, then Helen said, I didn't understand her situation, that she had many expenses and debts that I didn't know about. I asked if she thought she was the only person in the world with expenses. I had them too, and I was grieving while trying to maintain my job. I was struggling just to get through each day, and I didn't need her adding more stress to my life. I was just asking for time to return to this conversation in a few months when I would be in a better emotional state, and then we could come up with a plan that worked for both of us because I truly wanted to help Taya. But none of my words seemed to reach Helen. She took Taya and left. Before departing, she lied to Taya, saying that I didn't want her in the house. I tried to explain to Taya, but Helen rushed her out of there. Now my husband's daughter hates me because of her problematic mother, and I find myself caught with all these conflicting thoughts in my mind. First, I'm still grieving the loss of my husband, and I don't want Taya to hate me forever, but I don't know how to prevent that. On update 1. It's been 2 months since my last post, and during this time, I've begun to heal. I've also been supporting Taya as best as I can. I read all your comments, and they've helped me make a decision. I realize now that I was being tough on Taya due to my complicated relationship with Helen. It's not Taya's fault that she and I do not get along. At the end of the day, Taya has lost her father, and I need to be there for her. After thinking it over, I got in touch with Helen to find out how much she needed. Although I couldn't provide the full amount Dante used to give, I offered what I had. I had to rearrange some things, but I found a way to contribute towards Taya's expenses. I have been paying child support to Helen for the last 2 months, and it's been going well. Helen has kept me updated on how Taya is doing, and I see her every other weekend to spend time together, just the two of us. Taya is still very sad about her dad. She's old enough to understand that he's in heaven, but she misses him a lot. One thing that has made things harder for her is that Helen does not have any pictures of Dante in the house. When I found this out, I decided to give Taya a few photos of her dad. I didn't do it maliciously. I just wanted the little girl to have a picture of her father. However, Helen went mad and sent me a message asking when I had asked her permission to give those photos to Taya. I thought she wouldn't have a problem because Dante was Taya's dad. Helen explained that she didn't like having pictures of her ex around and that I should have consulted her first. I felt like she was overreacting, but chose to take a step back. Instead, I created a photo album for Taya, which she can keep until she's older. This issue with the photos isn't the only time I've clashed with Helen. She has been increasingly asking for more money, claiming she has extra expenses. When I told her that I couldn't give her more, she tried to make me feel guilty. I had to remind her of the agreement we made. I'm not even obligated to help her, yet I do it out of kindness. If she continues to press, I might stop helping altogether. I don't know why I was so naive to think she would be grateful. Has Helen ever been grateful for anything in her life? She has always acted entitled, as if everyone owes her something when that's actually not the case. She feels she deserves money without showing any appreciation at all. I don't want to go back on my word, but I am getting tired of dealing with her. It's not just about the money anymore. She complains about everything concerning Taya, complaining after every visit that I'm teaching Taya bad manners. The poor girl just lost her dad. Doesn't she deserve some comfort? For example, the other day, Helen exploded because I gave Taya some ice cream on a hot day. She accused me of trying to fatten her baby as if a little bit of ice cream could harm her. I tried reasoning with Helen, reminding her that Taya is grieving and sometimes needs small gestures to uplift her spirit. Helen's response was, "Don't tell me how to be a mother." So I decided to back off because I didn't want her to stop Taya's visits. However, I don't know how much longer I can tolerate Helen's craziness. Update 2. So that's it. I can't take it anymore. I'm done. I'm not paying any more child support for Taya, not when her mother is so ungrateful. Honestly, I've never met anyone who has such a sense of entitlement. Remember when I told you Helen was demanding more money? Well, the situation spiraled quickly, and it's only been a month. On top of that, she decided to hire a lawyer to harass me. Things have gotten out of control so quickly, and I'm still trying to process everything. A few weeks ago, Helen demanded I double the amount I was giving her, claiming it wasn't enough to cover Taya's basic expenses. Apparently, for some reason, she thinks she knows what I can afford and believes I've been skimping. I had some words for her that I won't repeat here, but basically, I reminded her she should be grateful for what she was already receiving. Our argument ended with her threatening to sue me for support. I challenged her to do it because I was ready to fight to the end. I never thought she would actually do it. Imagine my surprise when I received a letter from her lawyer demanding what Helen had mentioned. I replied to the lawyer that there was no way I would comply. Well, that was like opening a Pandora's box. Over the past few weeks, Helen and her lawyer have taken turns to harass me. Her lawyer, in particular, is bordering on being unprofessional with all the threats, even claiming that they would throw me in jail and seize all my assets. I don't believe that's even possible just due to child support. I've repeatedly told them to leave me alone and that I'm not going to pay more than I already have. In fact, they are pushing me to the point where I don't want to pay them a single dollar more. Not even a penny. Not even a debt collector would accuse me like this. I'm exhausted. Every morning I wake up to a barrage of insulting and threatening messages from Helen. The threats have escalated to the point where they've hinted at physical violence against me. After receiving several of these threats, I got scared and decided to consult my own lawyer. Honestly, I didn't want to involve the law. The last thing I need right now is a legal battle, but Helen and her lawyer have forced my hand. I had no choice but to spend money that I don't have to hire legal help. It actually felt relieving to do so, because my lawyer told me that what they're doing is completely illegal. Unless I adopted Taya, I'm not legally obligated to pay child support for her. Only her biological parents are required to do so. Even though Dante has passed, the responsibility does not fall to me. Unfortunately for her, she made a huge mistake getting the law involved. Now I've decided to be a bit vengeful. I'm taking her to court. I want not only to win, but also to get back every single cent I've already given her, and don't even get me started on her lawyer. He has illegally intimidated me, and I refuse to lose sleep over this nonsense. So I'm going to court, and I'm going to make them regret trying to manipulate me. I'll keep you posted on what happens next. Update 3. I have some spicy gossip that's probably going to blow your mind. You won't believe what just happened. Remember when I consulted with a lawyer about Helen's intimidation tactics? Well, after that, I decided to file a case against them for harassment. My lawyer did everything necessary, and they received the documents. The moment Helen got them, she called me frantically, panicking about why I had taken things so far. I had to remind her that she was the one who wanted to take me to court in the first place. She was the one who instructed her lawyer to harass and threaten me legally. So I was merely giving her exactly what she wanted. I told her that if I had to pay double in support, I wanted a judge to say that, not her. Suddenly, Helen changed her tone and asked if we could meet to discuss this like adults. I obviously wasn't interested in negotiating with her at all. I told her the conversation was closed. I had a shocking resolution. The lawyer who was supposedly representing Helen couldn't represent her anymore. I was confused and asked what that meant. It was then that my lawyer explained that Helen's so-called lawyer was actually her nephew, and he was still in law school. Helen had paid her nephew to pass himself off as her lawyer just to intimidate me. When they received the court documents, they panicked. Helen's nephew even begged my lawyer not to proceed with the case and pleaded for them not to let me know about the situation. But of course, my lawyer was obligated to inform me about everything. Furthermore, it was no longer my call because what they did was illegal. Impersonating a lawyer and intimidating someone is a crime, and as a law student, Helen's nephew should have known better. When the case finally got to court, I had all that I needed. All the messages, emails, anything proving the illegal acts and threats made to the judge. The judge was deeply offended, especially that Helen's nephew impersonated a lawyer. Because of this, the state brought separate cases against both Helen and her nephew. They were fined for harassing me and were both given restraining orders. If they ever attempt to contact me again, whether in person or online, they will face jail time. To top it all off, They also have to return every cent that I sent them as alleged child support. But that's not all. Helen's nephew made the biggest mistake of his life. His years studying to become a lawyer are now gone down the drain. He was academically kicked out and disqualified from studying law. He will never be able to study law again. His actions showed a total lack of integrity and respect for the legal profession, and the judge used him as an example of what happens when you try to play lawyer. I almost feel bad for him, but honestly, I don't. I can't even begin to imagine how shattered he must feel. His dreams of becoming a lawyer are completely ruined, and now he has to start his life from scratch. He was so close to achieving everything he ever wanted, and now it's all gone because he couldn't stop pretending and bluffing. Helen and her nephew should have backed off when I told them they needed to. They should have known they had no legal basis to make baseless threats. But they didn't, and now they have lost everything. It's honestly been a wild experience, but I'm glad it's finally come to an end. Let this be a lesson to anyone who thinks they can bully others. It won't end well. I'll keep you updated if anything else happens, but for now, it seems that this chapter is finally closed. Update 4. I really thought everything was resolved, but there's one last thing I need to share with you. Consider this my way of saying thank you for all your support during this disaster. None of this should have ever happened, and if Helen had been satisfied with the little I gave her kindly, things wouldn't have escalated to this point, or at least she wouldn't be in the hospital right now. Remember her nephew? The one who got disqualified? Turns out his parents are absolutely furious with Helen for involving their son in her scheme. Can you imagine the time, money, and resources they invested to help their son get into law school just for him to ruin everything? Now, he'll never have the chance to become a lawyer, and his future is ruined due to Helen's selfishness. Helen's sister, who is the nephew's mother, was so mad that she confronted Helen at her job. She waited for her in an empty parking lot after work and confronted her. By the time security came, it was too late. Helen ended up with a broken nose, a few seriously bruised ribs, and her face seriously battered. Who would have thought? I always believed Helen's sister was genuinely caring, but I suppose anyone can throw a punch when their son's future is destroyed by an adult who should have known better. The sad reality is that Helen should have known better. She never should have involved her nephew in this crazy plan. If she truly was that desperate, she could have asked a friend to pose as a lawyer, or better yet, she should have never asked me for more money in the first place. I'm pretty sure she only wanted more money to keep financing her unsustainable lifestyle. It's no secret that she loves designer clothes and expensive vacations. Dante and I always suspected she was using some of Taya's money to fund her little luxuries, but we never mentioned it because Taya was well taken care of. Now her whole house of cards is coming down, and honestly, I don't feel a bit guilty about it. This is what Helen deserves for harassing me while I was in mourning and trying to bleed me of money, and to add insult to injury, she had the audacity to bully me for months. I was just trying to help her, for crying out loud, but she showed no mercy toward me, and now I have none for her. Update 5. It's been 3 years since the last time I was here. I know because Taya is now 13. This update is about her. For those who don't remember, Taya is the daughter of Dante, my late husband, and his ex-wife, Helen. The last I knew of Helen was when her own sister sent her to the hospital after the altercation, resulting from all the drama surrounding the phony lawyer and the lawsuits. If you remember correctly, Helen had involved her nephew, who was in law school, into pretending to be a lawyer to intimidate me, and things spiraled wildly when her nephew was expelled and disqualified from law school, triggering all the fallout. Ultimately, Helen's mother intervened, basically forcing her to let it go after all the damage she'd done to her family, especially to her nephew. Even though Helen's sister was sued for the assault, things didn't get too complicated for her, as Helen's mother came in and tried to mitigate all the chaos. As you can see, Helen's family is quite dysfunctional, but luckily, I have distanced myself from all of it. My relationship with Helen was definitively cut off after she returned all the money she had illegitimately demanded from me, which only threw more fuel on the fire in our dispute. We haven't been in contact for all these years, which has been a relief. Now, what I really want to share with you is that after 6 years, Taya recently reached out to me. This was completely unexpected as we hadn't communicated since Helen cut off any possibility of us meeting, given her insistence that I resumed paying child support. Of course, that wasn't going to happen. Therefore, Taya and I lost contact despite the fact that we had always shared a good relationship. A few months ago, I received a message on social media from an account I didn't recognize. It turned out to be Taya, who had been looking for me for a while now. She said she missed me a lot and wanted to talk again. She explained that during the past years, her mother had been a very difficult person. I was surprised to receive that message, not only because I thought Helen had influenced her daughter to forget me, but also because Taya was taking the initiative to reach out on her own. Since then, I've given her my number, and we have been in regular contact. We chat every week, and it feels like the 6 years without communication just flew by. She tells me about her life, her school, and her friends. And I share about mine. How these years have been for me and how happy it makes me to know her again. Finally, reconnecting with Taya has brought me so much peace because, even though I'm not her mother, I've always cared for her a lot. Losing contact with her when Helen decided to keep her from me was very painful. I always understood that I was not responsible for her financially, but that never meant I didn't want or value the relationship we built while I was with her father during those times. When Helen cut ties and expected me to stop financially supporting her due to all the family drama, it hurt a lot. However, knowing Taya feels she can count on me and wants to stay in touch has given me a lot of peace. Additionally, I want to address something some have suggested following my last post, that maybe Helen could be behind this whole situation. I've thought about this, and honestly, I don't think that's the case. Taya hasn't asked me for anything, neither money nor any other favors. We simply chit-chat, and our conversations haven't touched on complicated issues related to Helen demanding anything. I know I need to keep my guard up, but for now, everything seems genuine. If anything weird were to arise, or if I suspect Helen is somehow manipulating Taya, I won't hesitate to cut off contact again. I'm not naive and certainly don't want to go back to that toxic situation. Taya has told me that despite her mother being challenging, Helen has never neglected her responsibilities towards Taya. From what I understand, Helen still takes good care of Taya, at least financially. Although their relationship is tense, Taya doesn't seem to be in any immediate urgent need. Grounded on that thought, I'll continue to move forward cautiously and stay attentive.